So I was recently asked a wonderful question. This person says that I feel like I've lost touch with what I actually enjoy, and I don't even know what I want anymore. How do I know if something is truly aligned for me or just something I think I should want? And I imagine if you're hearing me that you have asked yourself this very question. I know I have definitely asked myself this question. It is such a tender one, but it's so common, and like none of us is alone for having periods in our life where we grapple with this. So it doesn't mean that we are as lost as we think we might be, and it doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong. This is one of the most honest and important questions that we can ask ourselves. It invites us to kind of reevaluate our relationship with life and with ourselves. The truth is that many of us spend years, maybe even decades, building lives around what we think we should want and what we were told to want at the expense of what we actually want. We absorb messages from our families, from the culture that we live in, from social media, school, workplaces, religions, wellness communities, our friends, etc., etc. There's all kinds of noise. We receive messages and conditioning around what success should look like, what a healthy life should look like, how to handle our emotions, what a meaningful relationship should look like, what productivity should look like, what healing should look like, what spirituality should look like, and also like what happiness should look like. So there's kind of this, you know, mold that is created that we're trying to stuff ourselves into constantly. So after years of absorbing that and crafting this mold, we have a difficult time distinguishing between what is truly ours, so our desires, our intuition, our connection with the divine guiding us in our heart, and what we've inherited, what we've been told, what we've been shown, what we've been conditioned to want. So it becomes very difficult to distinguish between those things. The Bhagavad Gita, a very sacred text, tells us that the divine is situated in the hearts of all beings, right here, guiding us from within. So the problem is rarely that guidance is absent, it's that we've become too distracted to hear it. So I don't believe that most of us are, quote, disconnected from what we want or are unable to know what brings us joy and what we truly want. We're disconnected from our ability to hear it and to trust it. That inner guidance has been buried beneath all of that noise that I talked about earlier. And I'm sure you know this noise, right? There's opinions and expectations and societal norms and advice and algorithms and comparisons. And so the wisdom is silenced by that stream of stuff outside of ourselves. So we stop asking, what do I want and how do I feel? And instead we start asking, what am I supposed to want? How am I supposed to feel? We check back against that mold and see how we're measuring up. And those are two very different questions, right? What do I want? How do I feel? Versus what am I supposed to want? How am I supposed to feel? What should this look like? And kind of pause for a second and ask yourself, how many times do you ask yourself that question? Right? Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel right now. What am I supposed to want? It's very different than being with what is and being with what is genuinely happening for you. So one thing that I've noticed is when people are in this state where they're in this honest inquiry and this reflection, they often assume that they need more information outside themselves. Yeah, like more books, more podcasts, more voices, more courses, more personality tests, more experts, more opinions, more plans, more things. And they go on this like quest to find themselves and find some magical answer that that'll like strike them like lightning. And then angels will sing and trumpets will sound and they'll just like figure it all out and they'll know. And I've been there too, calling myself out. But often the opposite is actually true in most cases. It is a quieter, more subtle knowing. So the issue isn't a lack of information or a lack of stuff. It is an excess of it. And misuse of the senses and the mind in this way is always going to lead to suffering and disease and a further wedge between what we actually want and desire versus what we've been told and what we should want. So we don't need another voice. We need enough silence and stillness to hear our own inner guidance and enough faith to trust what we hear. And so this is the sticky part, right? Because there's nothing outside of us. And that can be a little uncomfortable because we want oftentimes for somebody to just tell us, for there to be this like lightning strike moment with the trumpets and the angels and the like, oh. Because when we slow down enough to listen, we often discover that what we truly want is much simpler than what we've been chasing. Yeah, we realize like, ooh, what am I doing? I don't want any of that. Or, wow, I feel this way and I've been suppressing it for so long. So we need enough silence and stillness to reconnect and to hear, and enough stability to be able to have that silence and stillness for long enough. That's why I'm such a huge advocate of daily basic foundational self-care that I talk about so much and that I teach in Everyday Rhythms. Think about nature, right? Nature rarely seems confused about what it wants. A sunflower turned towards the sun, vines reach for support, birds build nests. And the more deeply that we observe nature, the more we see that life naturally moves towards nourishment, towards connection, growth, and belonging. And we do too. At the core, we're very simple creatures who just want love, to love and to be loved. We want to feel connection, meaning, and purposefulness. We want rest. We want time in natural settings. We want creative expressions, presence, oftentimes a slower pace. We want a life that feels true to us. And those things can feel surprisingly difficult to claim because they don't always align with the stories that we have been taught. So something that I invite you to sit with is asking yourself, if nobody would ever know about this choice, would I still want it? Would I still do it? So if nobody was going to see you, if nobody was ever going to know, if you wouldn't be praised for it or you wouldn't be shunned for it, if nobody could be impressed by it, if nobody could validate or invalidate it, would you still want it? Whatever it is, whatever that choice is. Because alignment most of the time feels unsexy, if you will. What we want mostly is different than what we've been told. And it's not always what we feel is the more impressive thing or the more like brag-worthy thing, right? It's often quiet. Sometimes it looks like saying no. It looks like resting. It looks like gardening or reading or crafting something for no other reason than you just really enjoy it. Yeah, maybe it looks like not taking the promotion and the raise because you don't want to work the extra time and you're content with what you have, right? For many people, especially in this culture, that would look insane. What are you doing? So if a choice or something is coming to you and asking yourself, like, if literally nobody knew, if I could just be an anonymous, invisible person, nobody could praise or shame me for this. Nobody would validate or invalidate. Just there'd be nothing. Then what? Then what would I do? Another question that I love is, how does this make me feel in my body? So the body knows better than the mind. There's this like soft knowing. That's the way that this guidance comes to us. The mind can get very loud, but our inner guidance that kind of bubbles up in the body is softer, a little quieter. So weighing these things in the body, not thinking about it or wondering what other people would say or the pros and cons, making lists, any of that stuff, just how does it feel? Is it expansive? Is it contractive? Is it relaxing, grounding? Does it make you feel alive, curious, or maybe heavy, draining, um, just kind of icky, contracting? So just remembering that our body is aware of truth long before the mind catches up. So I really invite you to go on this journey of rebuilding trust with yourself, because the question isn't really about figuring out what you want. It is coming back to what is most natural to you and letting go of overriding yourself, because you are so much wiser than you realize and you have your own best answers. Nobody else does. You already know. So letting go of that self-abandonment, letting go of doubting yourself and coming back into trusting yourself and trusting that guidance that's already here. So just starting like now, today, you don't have to figure out everything your entire life right now, because I don't even think that's possible. Life is constantly evolving and expanding and always has its own plans, right? So we need to just let go and be in that flow and have lots of faith and flow. So you don't have to like figure everything out right this second. You don't have to discover your grand purpose or map out the next 10 years. Just begin noticing, rebuild that trust. What feels nourishing? What leaves you feeling more alive? What gives you energy? What drains your energy? What brings a sense of relief and joy? What creates tension? What feels like coming home? So noticing those tiny moments of alignment, and like when that inner wisdom flickers and bubbles up and speaks to you. That's how you build so that you always know. You always know. So it's less about like finding yourself and more about removing what isn't you, and that energetic containment where you're kind of in your own space, not allowing your room to be open, so to speak. It's like for me, I have this image when I'm shutting down my energetic boundaries and not allowing other voices inside, that it's like I've gone into my room and I've shut my door and I'm just in there just dancing and doing my own thing. And you can do that anywhere. That, you know, I'm talking, you can literally do that, like go into your room and shut your door and dance, but you can do that anywhere, you know, if you're on social media, if you're standing in line at the store, shutting those boundaries and just like, no, I'm in my own space. I'm back in myself, and nothing else matters because I'm just here dancing in my room, hearing myself, hearing my own inner guidance. So letting this be a time, a season of remembering and of listening and of coming back into relationship with yourself. And so how would you mend a relationship with anyone? It would be gently, slowly, honestly, and with great presence and devotion. And one last thing I'd like to leave you with is, you know, across many of the traditions, the wisdom traditions, the religious, spiritual traditions, enlightenment, liberation, and healing are often described not as acquiring something new, but as remembering what has been forgotten. So remembering the truth of who you are, which is often involves letting go of the things. So that inner wisdom, the divine, your divine friend is situated in your heart, guiding you. Just get still and quiet enough to hear it again. So that's what I have for you. I hope this was helpful. If this resonated, I would love to hear from you, and I invite you to share it with somebody if you feel called. So, what is something you've realized you wanted because you thought you should? And what is something your heart has quietly been asking for instead? So, until next time, be gentle with yourself, and I will see you in the next one.